Hey everybody, this is Jeff Peterson, and this is the Interstate of Music podcast, and I am lucky enough today to actually have our guest in studio, which is different nowadays, especially with all the Zoom podcasts and Zoom meetings that we're all used to, so it's kind of nice to have you in-house. I want to welcome our guest, Tony Goff. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be the pioneer here.
Yeah, right.
The post-COVID pioneer.
That's right. Yeah. That's a huge title.
It is.
And the thing about you with titles and projects, you've got a lot of them. You've always been somebody that is involved, and whether it's in business with Goff Enterprises and all that, and Slightly Gigantic, which is your new personal music venture. How long has that been going on?
We started releasing music in the middle of June, it would have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of years-ish in concept, but really turning it into something.
Yeah, so tomorrow, I'm sure by the time this airs, like 17 weeks ago.
Right.
So here at the end of February, we're releasing our 7th song, and on all the digital platforms, and it's just been a passion project. I wanted to get back into doing original music, for real, and honestly, learning about the music industry, music marketing in the 21st century, which I never really had the opportunity to do in growing businesses and working in cover bands and that type of thing, and that's been a really cool thing for me.
Well, and you bring up cover bands because in this Milwaukee market, I mean, that is what you're. I don't want to say most known for because the Goff name is a strong name in business in the community. But when it comes to music, you were first known, right, in a big way, with the cover band scene, right?
I mean, when I came back from Hollywood in 1996, I started the Boogeyman, you know, and that was just lightning in a bottle, you know. So with the alter egos and the afro wigs and the platform shoes and the whole thing, it was just like the perfect thing at the perfect moment, and it blew up like crazy.
You were playing nonstop, and you were headlining, you were doing the key time slots for the biggest festivals, and you weren't just Wisconsin based. I mean, you were traveling around as the Boogeyman. You were getting a lot of gigs.
Yeah, and we were releasing original disco records, very tongue in cheek. The whole thing was like half music and half comedy.
And just major focus was the entertainment value of what you're trying to do. If somebody's going to come and see you guys play, they're going to have a fantastic time doing it.
And that's why there was lines wrapped around the place.
They really were.
20 below, 0 weather.
It's insane. And because now the other side of it is you had an opening band for the Boogeyman.
Good memory.
Yeah, which was actually you as well.
That's right. Hey, it's a way to save a buck.
Right? Yeah. Smart. So what was that concept, and how did that come up? Because I thought it was brilliant. When I first saw it, and the Boogeyman, you come out with, like you said, the alter egos with the big fro wigs and the whole 70s, the whole thing. Yeah. But the band that opens for you, completely different vibe, completely different concept. What made you think of doing that?
Well, we did it in 2 different variations over the 16 years that I was in the band.
Yep.
Obviously, 96, what was going on in 96? The Packers were like the biggest thing in the world. It was super hot with Brett Favre and that whole thing. So we would wear Packer jerseys, and we called ourselves Cheese Whiz,
Brilliant.
And we'd just go out.
Again, you guys were constantly okay with putting yourselves out there, and you mentioned tongue-in-cheek. Very much that concept of entertainment value, but the skills of the musicianship and your vocal capabilities were top notch and are top notch.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Otherwise, people aren't coming back.
I've been blessed to be able to play with some really great players. I mean, all the way through. So that's been a constant for me, thankfully. At least since the early 90s.
Because that was you guys got paid real money. I mean, you guys cover bands. When they've got that much entertainment value and they're bringing in that kind of a crowd, you were making bank.
Real money by 2022 standards.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I see, we pushed real hard to get $10 cover charges back in 96. Now, trying to get a $10 cover charge in 2022, it's almost impossible
I
for
know.
just about anyone. I
It's
mean,
true.
it happens, but people are complaining about it. Like,
It's all of a sudden they don't have as many drinks because of it. The whole thing. It's like this big wine session every time somebody walks up and says, "Oh, there's a cover."
right.
It's like it's weird.
There are hundreds and hundreds of years worth of musical expertise happening on that stage at any given,
Yep.
or hours, I should say.
Yep.
Given on that stage, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment on the stage. Everyone's trying to
Yep.
put on a beautiful stage show, and people don't want to pay $10. But anyway, I digress.
Well, and that is a part of, where you start to kind of determine what you want to do with your music career.
Yeah.
And you talked about, doing some originals as the Boogeyman, the tongue-in-cheek kind of 70s disco style. But when did you start to kind of feel like you wanted to be more focused on your own, I don't know, whether it's musicianship or whatever, lyrics, the composing of your own music, because you've done such a great job of portraying other styles and genres of music, because you mentioned 52nd Street, which is an amazing Billy Joel tribute show. And you nail it. You just played the Pabst Theater, which is like it's hard to even call 52nd Street a cover band, but when you're playing somebody else's music, that's how it is.
Just, no, we are a straight up tribute music of Billy Joel band. We just play that music really well, and
packing large stadiums that people are paying top dollar tickets, and you are entertaining them. They're singing along. Like, you have the stage presence and the oomph that every musician's looking for on stage. What made you want to do the original thing?
Well, I'll tell you, my rock original music passion started, in 1984.
When all rock should start.
Exactly, right?
The best decade of all
So when
time.
you're an uncool, pimple-faced kid at Catholic Memorial, not a big hit with the ladies, and not a great student. I was just
getting through.
just barely getting through.
Yep,
Barely. I came across Circus Magazine. Me and my dirtball friends were flipping through Circus Magazine at the around in the cafeteria,
Yep.
and I went, I want to be that guy. I bet he gets a lot of chicks.
Okay, like that was kind of the drive motivation. You're like, hey, let's have fun with it.
Absolutely.
Now, were you playing instruments at that time, or were you just like, hey, you guys don't want to sing, but you can play drums and your guitar? I guess I'll be the singer. Like, how did that play out?
It's an excellent question. It's kind of funny. So, super passionate about it. I'm 15 years old. I get myself working at my dad's body shop and earn enough cash to get a knockoff Les Paul guitar. Yeah. I'm practicing that thing every day. I'm playing through this crummy little amp, and I'm super passionate. I'm just into it, trying to read tablature and just be in a garage band. That's what I want to do.
Yep.
So I take a little ski trip up to Little Switzerland at the time, sliding down. It's a little bunny hill. I fall down. I break my thumb. See this right here? I break my thumb. I wind up with a cast up to my elbow, and I can't touch my guitar for months.
Right.
So I continue to go to our crummy garage band little rehearsals, and so I can't play guitar, but there's a microphone sitting there. So I start screaming through a guitar amp, and that was it. That was it. Yeah.
And now, what was the name of the band that took you to LA/Hollywood to give it a go? Was it Lips?
Lips, yep, exactly. Yep, 100%.
And what gave you the guts to think you were good enough to go to LA with the band named Lips out of Wisconsin,
right.
with coming out of a garage trying to figure things out? Like what was that process like, that you even thought that was a good idea or even possible?
A lot of naivete, I would say.
Okay. Hey, some of the best things come from thinking that you're better, or hey, why not me type of a thing, and like, hey, we're so good, and give it a shot. Right?
100%. So we're playing T.A. Vern's and Billy's Old Mill, and we're feeling like we're
all the places everybody across the country has heard of.
Of course. So we're thinking we're king shit, right? Playing these little rooms, and we're putting out our own original music on, cassettes. And I mean, we had all the motivation in the world. We're getting these things like, put into the mainstream records and Music Land stores. And, we're doing our own promo.
This is totally bringing it back. Yep.
Flyers and posters. And doing our own self-promoted shows at the Waukesha Expo Center and this type of thing. Flyering the heck out of all the local high schools.
So this became like just this internal project passion. This is what we want to do all day, all night, every weekend.
Yep.
It all revolved around that. And it was just that.
Every day, 24/7, 365 days a year. That's all I wanted to do. And that's all we wanted to do. So we rehearsed and we wrote music and we were very, very tight. And, it was just a young group of guys that just we were going to be as good as we could have possibly been at that time. Now I look back in the material and I'm like, oh my God, how embarrassing, And a lot of that came from just trying to, emulate the popular musicians of the day. Like you learn along the way, and sometimes it just takes too darn long. That the only cool thing about any of us is to be ourselves.
Yes.
We're really not being cool when we're trying to be somebody else. And it just took too long to figure that out. But beyond that, we were motivated. Boy, were we motivated. So my best friend in music and all other ways forever, like since we were 18 years old, Joe Height and we had started Lips, and we had all this local success. So we go out to LA for a weekend and had the time of our lives, of course. A couple young guys. Yeah. Came back and we announced to our band. We said, "Well, we're moving to LA.
Are you in or out?
Are you in or out?"
Yep.
And with these guys with nothing to lose at the time, they went, "Yeah, we're in." We didn't have any money, so let's just say, I think the statute of limitations has run out on this now.
Sure.
I think. I would say I can't get
100%.
Right?
Oh yeah, no.
Right. So. One of the guys in the band wound up with some sort of a fake ID.
Yeah.
And then we rented, I say in air quotes here on the podcast.
Yeah.
We rented a U-Haul, and we said that we were going to drive it across town and move from one apartment to the other across town.
Yep.
We got in that thing, loaded it up, and hightailed it for California.
That's awesome.
And that's how we got our stuff out there.
That's
we
amazing.
didn't have the money, We gave it back, but
right. Eventually, when you didn't when you didn't know what to do with it anymore, and the landlord started charging rent for the parking spot outside. But when you got out there, how did you get gigs?
Yeah, this is back in the day of pay to play, So we wanted to play all the most famous clubs up and down the Sunset Strip, the Roxy, Gazzari's, the Whiskey a Go-Go, the Troubadour down on Santa Monica. This is what we were reading about in our circus magazines about how Motley Crue got signed out of the Whiskey a Go-Go. Well, that's where we got to be, because that's where the record company people are. I mean, this was our thought at the time, and it was sort of true at the time.
Yeah.
But it had just begun to shift. Things were shifting, and maybe that group of guys were really kind of the last guys that actually got signed directly out of a rock club in Hollywood.
Yeah, okay.
It was happening in other ways.
Yep. So you played those places.
Yeah, a lot.
And were you able to make enough money to kind of keep you out there for a bit, or did all of you have to go get real job, so to speak?
Well, we tried to. I mean, this is again between 90 and 96. The job market was not good. So, and we would have, we were starving to death. We're living with like all of these
ramen
guys.
Noodles was expensive.
Oh yeah, there was a point in time,
you guys.
There was a point in time where we ate nothing but a bag of potatoes for a month.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we did. We made potatoes in every possible way you could possibly imagine.
Yep.
I mean, there was crazy stories. I mean, a gang member that got his head blown off, like in the apartment across the hall from our apartment.
Because you weren't in the high rent district, obviously.
We were not. Yeah, we were not. We got evicted probably 7 times or something like that.
Well, and the thing about it is, like, back then you could get away with that kind of thing a little bit more because there wasn't a good way for it to to trail you.
True.
So you could go and say, "Oh, we just moved into town looking for a place from Wisconsin.
Yep.
Hey, we're good guys."
Exactly.
That kind of thing. And they're like, "Oh, we didn't realize you just got evicted 4 different times."
Right.
Because it was harder to track that stuff back then.
We wanted to be good guys. We wanted to pay our rent.
Right.
But it just wasn't working out.
Yeah. So how long were you out there?
6 years almost.
Holy shit, that's legit.
Yeah.
How much too long was it? Out of that 6 years, how long was it probably too long?
Oh boy, that's an excellent question. Well, here's what happened. It was probably 91 when we got introduced to a guy that loved our band, that saw what we were doing, saw the motivation, saw the songwriting quality, and he got us a development deal with A&M Records. So we were recording at A&M Studios, the old Charlie Chaplin Studios, which is now the Jim Henson Studios, right there at Sunset and La Brea. We were recording in there while Metallica was mixing their Black album across the hall.
That's
We're in
crazy.
Studio D there in the mix room, running a Lars Ulrich in the hallway, and he just he's gushing. He doesn't know me from Adam. I'm like, hey, you're Lars. You're the guy from Metallica.
Yeah.
And he's, bro, you would not even believe what we got going on here. Bob Rock is working with us, and it's just your mind is going to be blown. This is going to be a complete game changer for us. And he's he's selling me. He doesn't know me from Adam. And I don't. We just we were in there with Melissa Etheridge, and Kiss was in there. We got kicked out of Studio A so Bon Jovi could do some overdubs on the Crossroads.
You've got
record.
great just stories
crazy
just from
stuff like
going
that.
out and giving it a shot and doing it.
Yeah, just crazy stuff.
So you get back. How deflated are you at that point? Worn out from the grind and just like this isn't gonna. I got to make money.
Just beyond burned out. Yeah. And so I came back with a wife and a 3-month-old daughter, and I'm a Midwestern.
That's more than you took out in the U-Haul, from what I remember.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Went out there with a girlfriend and some rabbits and came back with a wife and a 3-month-old child.
Yep.
Well, me being Bob Goff's kid I'm not about to not support my family.
Right.
Good,
the upbringing is solid.
good Midwestern kid.
Yeah, right.
There's no way I'm going to do that. My kid's not going to be brought up in the Los Angeles, public school system.
Yep,
and,
right.
With a deadbeat dad that wants to be a rock star, right?
Yep, right.
So we came back.
That story's been told a million times on MTV.
Oh, exactly. I didn't want to be that guy. So it's a very long story, but I had started this little manufacturing company before I left. Actually, in the midst of everything else, it's like, what you did? What? Yeah, that's what happens.
That's what's so interesting about you is because you've done so many different things outside of music that can stand alone as successful business stories and journeys all by themselves. But with everything that you've done musically and that journey, there's got to be a book coming out. And there's so much to you that people could just kind of learn or reach out, have a question. You've got so much past experience and knowledge. And just honestly, it is like, I've been there, I've lived it, I've hated it, I've loved it, I've in-betweened it. You've been through so many different aspects of it. Financially, nothing. Financially, lots of something. So it's crazy, where it's at. So, having this little manufacturing thing, what were you making?
We were making industrial curtain partitions for body shops. So what
year was this?
This is I was 19 years old. It was 1987. I was 2 years out of high school. So I know. So in amongst everything else,
solid business.
Yeah. So here's the real story there. I'll try to keep this short. I was going to WCTC, basically for marketing, just so my mother would have something to tell the
other moms
at Bible study.
Right.
That was it. Just to save face with my mom and her Bible study group. That's why I was doing that, and just to keep them off my back.
Yep.
So I was still living at home. Obviously, I came home, and my dad's like, "Oh, so how's school today?" I'm like, if I can be honest with you, I get a total anxiety attack sitting there as these teachers would talk about the business success that they would had. I feel like if I just simply had an idea, I would be able to just take the ball and run with it. I can't do this. This is driving me crazy. Like, why are we talking about it? Why don't we go do it? Yeah. Again, my impatient naivete was just, that's what,
Well, you've already proven to yourself a little bit of willingness to go do. To just be, do, driven. And you had examples of that in your life of people going out and doing and being something. So it's not such a crazy thought that you were like driven that way.
In retrospect, it is though. Knowing now what I know here after 35 years in business.
Yep.
It's crazy. What the hell was I thinking? Like I had no business plan. I knew nothing of manufacturing. I knew nothing of sales.
Back then, you probably didn't need one. You could walk into a bank and say, "Hey, here's a drawing on a bar napkin. What do you think?" And they're like, "Hey, yeah, what the heck? We'll give it a shot."
Started the business with about $35.
That's awesome.
Literally.
More than you went to LA with.
100%. True that. True that. So my dad says, "Hey, I have a business idea for you." As we're sitting around the dining room table, he said, a group of shop owners came through, toured my shop in the last couple of weeks. Of all the unique ideas that I implemented within my shop, the one idea that they were totally drawn to was this sliding vinyl curtain partition that I used to separate my paint shop. So I understood it. Body shops make a lot of mess,
Right.
dust,
Yeah.
noise, paint, primer, water, whatever, a lot of airborne contaminants. I'd grown up in this shop. So I went over the next day with one of those little cardboard Kodak cameras.
Yep.
Snapped a picture of this thing that he'd put up there. I created a one-page features and benefits flyer, and we took it up to a trade show. We didn't have a booth, but we walked up and down the trade show booth handing out these flyers. And a shop from Texas said to me, "It's an excellent idea. I know exactly what you're talking about. You call me on Monday. I will be your first order." A shop from Texas.
That's unbelievable.
And that was the seed money. And from there, I had to figure out who's going to build it, how we were going to price it. What's our business model? I mean, all these words that I didn't know existed at the time. But I started taking out ads in the back of body shop magazines and set up a single phone line in the corner of my dad's auto body shop office, a little card table there. The phone started ringing, and I do some consultative selling to these body shop guys. I'd take dimensions over the phone. They'd give me a credit card. I'd ship it off to the cut and sew shop and have them drop ship the whole thing to the shop owner, and that's
Unbelievable.
That's the way the business started.
So I mean, if I'm connecting dots because obviously it's easier for me to connect them after the fact, but if you think about it, when you were selling that at that trade show, walking up and down to all these booths, it was no different than you selling yourself to get gigs, selling your band, believing in what you were doing and being able to convey that. So much of those skill sets are the exact same skill sets of taking that partition and getting somebody to buy into it because you're passionate about it and you're like, this is how I'm going to make money. So this is what's happening today.
It's 100% entrepreneurial. The whole thing. I mean, you're selling a vision to your employees or your bandmates or whoever you have around you. You're marketing. You're creating a strong product that people can believe in. It's all those things.
So that business itself still in existence the same way, doing the same things, or
it's certainly evolved over the years. It's still industrial space partitioning, but now we have a whole line of high performance door products, and the company's done quite well. We now operate out of a 67,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Pewaukee.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, I just kept hiring people that were way the heck smarter than I was for their
best way to do it,
for their areas of expertise.
I do the same thing.
Create a plan, set a vision, and get the hell out of the way.
And so is that really kind of your main gig?
That's the golden goose for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now we're kind of looking at slightly gigantic, right? And you've got this project. You've got enough shit going on in your life.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, it's
at some point, when does a musician stop being a musician because they've got this other stuff?
Never, apparently, at least in my case, and I think in most people's case. I mean, once it gets in your blood, it just doesn't go away.
Right.
So the entire time I've been building this business since 1996, and like I said, I started the Boogeyman, and that was a huge musical distraction as well, and other things were happening. As we are going through. Now it's, let me think about this. It's probably like 2000. And I'm like, I've been doing all of these things for all of these years. But what I really wanted to do is go back to where I started and create some real music, put some real music out in the world that I can truly be proud of.
Cool.
And that was the thing that was nagging at me. The other thing that was nagging at me big time is music marketing in the 21st century is something that I never got to experience. And I'm so jealous, so deeply jealous of all the up and coming artists that have opportunities like this, like podcasts, like YouTube, like digital distribution, like Spotify, like, you know,
had you had
I had
that,
those tools.
if you had something like that, and everybody will say
Right.
this, but as driven as you were about lips,
Yeah.
and you know, going to the expo center and selling out these shows on your own, and going and trying to get people to buy tickets and come to this, and printing out posters and doing all of that work with cassettes and hitting all these different bars for gigs and all this stuff, the amount of energy and effort that took versus being able to sit at home and plan things out and have a little bit more of a strategy and have a lot more of people's past experiences to pull on to kind of like, help you through like how you're going to present yourself. It is a different world right now if you're a musician getting into it. Now, the negative side of what it is today is easy, and I don't want to say easy because you've got to know what you're doing because there's so much clutter.
Oh, yeah.
The problem nowadays is there's so much clutter and there's so much talent that's never heard because they don't have the time or the skill set to find a way to get people to know they exist.
100%. Yeah.
And that's where you're, I mean, I sit there and I look at some of your downloads, some of your engagement on your social platforms. It's legit. You figured some of this out right now with what you've been up to.
Trying to, yeah, definitely trying to. And
I mean, it's not trying. You're doing so much so fast in such a short period of time. What got you there? Who did you pay attention to? Who's helped you kind of navigate through the clutter?
I'm just a curious guy. You know what I mean? So, I'm listening to a ton of podcasts, and I'm listening to the CD Baby podcasts, and I'm reading all these articles, and I'm using Spotify for artists, and I'm watching their YouTube videos, and we're submitting things through Submit Hub, and we're trying to get these influencers to pick up our songs and use them on TikTok and on their Instagram reels, and all these types of things. It's just, and if I had more time, I think I could really go after it. But it's just an interesting experiment for me, for a guy that's my age, to see if I can actually put relevant music out into this world by leveraging the resources that platforms that are out there now, because I've been so jealous along the way. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You know what? The first band that I realized that were really the kind of the new generation, they actually had the beginnings of the tools with Pro Tools, digital recording. They didn't need a $2,000 a day lockout at A&M Records to create something great. They had Pro Tools and a laptop or whatever they had. They were figuring it out. YouTube was in its infancy. It was Linkin Park.
No,
do you remember this?
Yep, absolutely.
And those, I would read articles about those guys and be like, they are a lot like we were, because they were smart and they were motivated and they weren't.
And they were trying to figure it out. They weren't just saying, we're a band, just let us be a band. Everybody should come because we've got great music. We put on a great show. They'll show up.
They were business people.
Business people.
Yeah, they really thought about it. And they strategized it, and they did it in the way that I think that we would have done it had we had the same tools.
And so what is next? So are you, I mean, obviously the Golden Goose is going to stay the Golden Goose, and you're going to keep on growing that into, it's going to transition into whatever it transitions to based on what's relevant in the business and the category that you're in. You're going to keep on doing that, right?
That's right, yeah.
But music-wise, are you looking to make this, I would say, an internal project where you guys are just doing your own recording, putting out your own music, putting it out on a Spotify, out on social, and just doing it that way? Or are you looking at getting back out and gigging?
Yeah, that's
because you're still doing 52nd Street. That's
great.
something that you're doing regularly. Is that your only
It's my
external
only
performance?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is. And I would love to be able to get out and play with Slightly Gigantic live, actually flesh out a band around these songs and go tour. And Joe and I have talked about this, at our, I hate to keep saying it, at my age, but I'm in my 50s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I'm 54.
We are the same age.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
We've been through 45s, the albums, the cassettes, the CDs,
all
the
that.
MP3.
The whole thing.
We know so much.
Right. So my super pipe dream would be like be the first guy in his 50s to ever be able to take a band and like actually break through a little bit, go tour in a summer European festival tour or something like that, and actually go out and do it. And at this point, it's really more of a bucket list type thing for me to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure. With me, it all begins with thought. Once the thought kicks in, then action will follow. But it's starting to get fleshed out in my head how we might be able to make this happen.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, and then I want to talk a little bit about Joe. The reality is, you have so much. I don't know how much content you have, or video content, or anything from all of your past musical projects.
Yeah, not much.
That's the problem, right? Yeah. It's like, because if you could have some resume of proof of how much you put out there and the way you put a show on, everybody's going to want to book you because they're going to believe in what you're going to do on stage. They're going to listen to your music and they're going to say, great music, but boy, there's a lot of great music. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's not a lot of great performers. There's not a lot of great bands that go out where you walk away and go, holy shit, that was an awesome show. I'm going to download all their music tomorrow. Yeah. And that's what I think you have that so many don't have.
Well, I really appreciate that.
People have good music out there.
Oh yeah.
But when they get up on stage, are they different? Right. Are they bringing it differently? Are they caring about the showmanship, the aesthetics of the stage, the set, the lighting, all of it, which is what you kind of always give a shit about. You care about the whole
I always
show.
Have from Jump Street, from the time I was a kid, like it was those rock bands that made me want to do this with the big stage shows and all that. I mean, at this point, I think strategically there's some ways we could kind of get around some of these things. We could put together a band. We could do some showcase shows. Those showcase shows could be filmed well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It could become part of that EPK. And, we're about to release the 7th song. When we get to about 12 songs, I think, is we're just doing these one at a time to try to build interest as much as possible.
Yep. And you don't want to overload it and just everybody's like, because let's put it this way. Every album we've ever bought or listened to, you've got those songs that you're like, you skip past them, and then, oh my God, love this one, love this one. Holy shit, this is awesome. This is the best song. Why is it number 7?
Right.
Type of a thing. And that's kind of that fear of like, if you put them all out there at the same time, you're going to get those skip throughs, and you don't know what you're going to get for a full reaction. So when you release them strategically, there's more power to it.
It's also it's just too much for the average human being to take in these days.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to listen to Slightly Gigantic that you've never heard of by a couple of 50-year-old
12
guys?
songs?
Yeah, 12 songs. You want to sit down and digest that for an hour or 10 or something like that? Or would you rather kind of maybe get on the bandwagon slowly and, hey, well, that sounds kind of cool.
You're doing it the right way.
So that's that. At least that's our theory.
It's a good theory. I think it's becoming more popular again to put out those 5-song EPs too, versus full albums. You're hearing more up and coming artists that are doing it that way. It gets frustrating to me because I'm like, I know they probably have 50 songs and I want to hear those other 50. I've heard these 5 for like 8 months now. Can we we have some more, please? But that's probably what they want, as well.
Our plan is to get all 12 out in the world and then repackage it as a record for anybody that cares.
Yep.
And maybe if that happened to coincide with some live dates and maybe some vinyl, this type of thing, maybe that would be the thing because, before you go and tour, even if it's going to be a 1 month or a 2 month tour, you really want to have enough of a collection of songs out there where people can at least look you up on Spotify and get a real flavor for what you're all about.
Absolutely. So when you talk about the bucket list of it all, what do you think your timeline in your head is that you think you're going to be out there playing? Like, our goal is in 6 months, in a year, in this amount of time. Like, what's comfortable for you?
Yeah, I would say, boy, not getting any younger,
That's part of my thought. It's like, you don't want to say 3 years.
No. I would say this would be my bucket list, to say within about a year to actually have a band put together and be moving towards, hey, we're just going to go on a nice little vacation, guys.
Yep.
We're going to take a little leave of absence and I'll see you in a month.
Yep.
And we'll have some cool tour booked. That would be a bucket list for me.
That's awesome.
We'll see.
And where do you have any venues that you're like, I really want to play there?
I mean, I would love to do like an actual European summer festival tour. You know, that would be the thing. Or
Have
something
you
like
ever
that.
done anything like that?
No.
That's why I want to do it.
That's why I want to do it.
That's awesome. So, what's next for you? That's not music related, not your golden goose. Like, what do you just personally want to go out there and do ASAP?
Huh. I mean,
and you can say, go to the corner bar and have a beer by myself with nobody around. So
well,
I
maybe
can
one with you right after this.
That sounds good.
You got me thinking. Who needs a shrink when we got Jeff Peterson in the house?
That's right. I'm gonna bring all the emotions out.
I don't know. It's this music is I'm really focused on it right now. I really enjoy it. I want to play more shows with 52nd Street right away.
So good.
I'd like to go do more theaters. In the last couple of weeks, we were able to do a theater up in Michigan and then the Pabst Theater. Both of those shows were great, and it just reminds me, like those are the kinds of shows that I really enjoy playing. Big stages, professional situations, ticketed situations where people are actually paying attention.
Right,
to
so you don't hear all the people just jawing in the background, your background music, all the rest of it. So I love where you've been. Great stories, great journeys. For you, it's got to be fun to reminisce and think back of some of the things that you did, some of the craziness of it all, and the fact that, hey, sometimes being naive is exactly what you need to get you to where you're going. Thank you for being part of the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
It's been a blast, man.
It's been an absolute blast.
We will keep tabs on you. Give us any Slightly Gigantic contact info.
Yeah.
Tell us all about it so people can go immediately start download and stream it.
Sure. The website is slightlygiganticband.com, slightlygiganticband.com. Instagram, you'll find us Slightly Gigantic Band. Facebook, Slightly Gigantic. All the rest of it. You'll find us all over Spotify and stuff. I think we just eclipsed like our 320,000th stream in the last.
That's insane, by the way.
Just in the last, since June. So
that's amazing. I mean, I'm sitting here. I've got a ton of up and coming artists that I have connected with, and I track that stuff, and I look at this, and I'm like, why don't they have more? Because they're so good. More people need to know about them, all this kind of stuff. And you start looking at their social media and what's going on, and you're like, it starts to make sense as to why it's not. And then I looked at yours, and I'm like, man, you've got this dialed in to hit your bucket list. You really do.
That would be the thing. I want to be the first old guy that has any level of success in music.
You've built a great foundation. Thank you for sharing it with us. It's been a blast as I just ripped the shit out of a microphone. It's always fun to talk to you. Always fun to catch up. And thanks for being
awesome,
being here.
Jeff. Appreciate it.
Good stuff, man.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Slightly Gigantic, Tony Goff, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Interstate of Music podcast. Peterson out.